All right, and here we are back with the First Team Fantasy Podcast. We have the Thursday night recap for you guys, as well as the morning game previews in this one. So, starting off with the Thursday night recap, we had the Patriots going into Pittsburgh to play the Steelers in a matchup with Bailey Zappi versus Mitchell Trubisky. We didn't think much of it, and took the under. Suggested everybody take the under on this one. The line was 30 points. And here we were thinking the Steelers barely managed to score 10 points at home last week against the 2-10 Cardinals. The Cardinals defense has been bad. They couldn't get it in on the one against the Cardinals. It took an last second touchdown to muster up 10 points. The Patriots defense has been good. And then the Patriots had scored 13 points combined in the past 3 weeks. So, yeah. We did not think that there was going to be much activity on offense in this game.
No.
Well, the Patriots in the first half proved us entirely wrong. In the second half, of course, they didn't do anything, but the first half was enough to win them the game.
Yep.
They scored 21 points. Bailey Zappi threw for 3 touchdowns. He was 19 for 28, 240 yards with those 3 touchdowns. 1 interception that came in the second half. Also ran the ball 3 times for 13 yards, giving him 21.9 fantasy points. I mean, have a day, Bailey Zappi, but I'm not going to be looking to start you by any means. Zeke, though, on the other hand, absolutely went to town on this Steelers defense. He was fairly inefficient in the rush game, 22 attempts for 68 yards, but as a pass catcher, we know what the Patriots do. It's just been a matter of not being one guy getting all of the volume, catching those passes. Well, when there was, even if it is Ezekiel Elliott in the year of 2023, he got 8 targets and caught 7 of them for 72 yards and a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. 27 points from Zeke. Devontae Parker was a last-second DNP. So we saw Juju step up to the role of wide receiver 1, which makes sense because that's what they paid him to be. He caught 4 of his 6 targets for 90 yards, giving him 13 points. I mean, he did his thing against his former team. Good job, Juju.
Yeah.
Mike Gesicki had 0 involvement in this one, but Hunter Henry, the other tight end, caught all 3 of his passes for 40 yards and 2 touchdowns, giving him 19 points. So, I mean, on it, the second touchdown was that was just a dime from Bailey Zappi. That thing was beautiful. One I added in here just for the sake of...
Oh, no.
Ty Montgomery got 2 targets, caught 1 of them for 17 yards, then was cut after the game. So...
See you later, Ty Montgomery.
Ty Montgomery. And then Tyquan Thornton... caught 3 of his 5 targets for 17 yards. So the Patriots were they had like 3 active wide receivers in this game.
Yeah.
And but I mean, that was it for this one. Their kicker made all 3 of his extra points, so good for you, Ryland.
Yeah, and this was a game that you just assumed the Steelers were going to win because, one, why are the Patriots winning football games right now? Steelers were 7-4 coming into 2 home games against the Cardinals and the Patriots. They're now 7-6.
The easiest remaining part of their schedule. 2 home games against 2, at the time, 2-10 teams.
Yeah.
2 win teams.
They should be
and
9-4.
Both of them at home.
Yeah. So it was, to say the least, an ugly one. Mitchell Trubisky actually had a very solid stat line. He was 22 of 35 for 190 yards, 1 touchdown and interception. He also carried the ball 8 times for 30 yards and another touchdown, which gave him 21.6. Bailey Zappi and Mitch Trubisky getting it done fantasy-wise for absolutely no one's team. Because...
Well, I started Trubisky in Dynasty.
Would you have to?
I had no choice. Yeah. Sam Howell's on bye. I didn't know if Trevor Lawrence was going to play.
Yeah, not worth the risk if he didn't. Wow, that's a disgusting play that paid out for you. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, I forgot I did it because I just threw him in and closed my eyes.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, fantasy-wise,
damn near 22 points.
Yeah,
I was like, okay,
Trubisky absolutely got it done. Two guys who did not get it done, and we had a feeling they wouldn't, was Najee and Jalen Warren.
Yeah.
The Steelers ran the ball 19 times between the two for 40 yards. It was abysmal. Najee was 12 for 29. He caught 3 passes out the backfield on 3 targets for 19 yards, finished with 7.8. Played 57% of snaps. Jalen Warren carried the ball 7 times for 11 yards. Caught 4 passes out the backfield for 29 yards on 5 targets. 8 fantasy points. Played 53% of the snaps. And what's funny is I got a message on Instagram before the Thursday games, and it was, do I start Jalen Warren or Chuba Hubbard?
Oh, yeah, it was Chuba Hubbard, absolutely.
That's what I said. After the game was over, I circled back and said, please tell me you put in Chuba. He did. So, avoided Jalen Warren. Something that same person did not avoid, and I'm sure a lot of us, because I was high on them, obviously with the Patriots scoring 13 points in 3 weeks and having 3 active receivers. Pittsburgh defense gave us 4 fantasy points. That is an absolute letdown. We knew their defense wasn't good per se, but they cause havoc. They create turnovers, sacks.
Yeah, we were expecting a few more interceptions, maybe
fumble recovery, strip sack.
Anything, but they absolutely got fried in the first half and were just not able to make up for it with the sacks and turnovers in the second half.
Yeah, so Pittsburgh defense let all of us down, as well as I guess the only receiver that I liked Deontay more than George Pickens, but I didn't really like either of them. Deontay got in the end zone, which gave him a decent fantasy day. He had 7 targets, caught 3 of them for 57 yards and a touchdown. So he finished 14.7. George Pickens was not as lucky. Did you see the chart that showed like his routes run in this game? What didn't make sense was he ran all those routes, and then late in the game, when the Steelers possibly could get in range for a Hail Mary, and the announcer's like, well, Trubisky has the arm to get it there from 60. Then why is George Pickens running 2-yard routes the entire game if Trubisky can go deep?
Well, not only that, so you have Pickens running these little outs all game. Did you see it's 4th and 2 with the game on the line, and they throw a 35-yard pass down the field?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But yeah, George Pickens caught 5 of his 6 targets for 19 yards, which makes sense. If you watch the game, he was not running deep at all. Had 6.9 fantasy points. Not a good week for George Pickens, but someone that we weren't looking to start this weekend, this weekend anyways. Pat Freiermuth got volume, also got a 2-point conversion.
Yeah, he did.
Had 7 targets, but only caught 3 of them for 18 yards. And that 2-point conversion, 6.8 fantasy points. Again, not a good week. A week where some people may have had to start him only because of McBride mainly being on bye. McBride and I guess Logan Thomas, but hasn't been as consistent lately. But yeah, Freiermuth.
I mean, I had one of the chats. I mean, someone asked, like, should I start Pat Freiermuth before, like, it was before the game? Should I start Pat or should I start Taysom Hill? And my response was, well, the Steelers were only able to, obviously I gave them my opinion on the Steelers offense, and then Pat or Taysom Hill, especially if Derek Carr, I mean, even if he does play, they're going to have Taysom Hill take some snaps at quarter. He's going to get rushing volume. He might catch a couple passes, and then when they get to the goal line, we know they run it with Taysom Hill. So it's like he gets volume in the rushing game as opposed to if Pat doesn't catch his targets. That's it.
You know what the scary part about Taysom Hill is, though?
What's that?
He might not play.
Oh, really?
He has not practiced all week. And they're seeing it, as of now, as like an uphill battle. Which is very rough because, yeah, I 100% agree with you. And you'd think, even if he doesn't practice, Tuesday, Wednesday, even a Thursday, you're like, well, Taysom Hill's going to go. He always goes. So he very well might still go. But, yeah, if people are looking for that pivot.
Let's see. They have him right now projected for 0 points on ESPN.
Yeah. Because But we will cover that, honestly, very shortly. I don't know if you had anything else from this game. If not, we can get into the injury report, where it'll be mentioned. I only saw it when I was taking down, our notes, and I got to the Saints game, and I was like, oh, dang, he might not play.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Well, Jawan Johnson would be the pivot there, so.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, did you have anything else for this one?
No, this one's
an ugly game. To go through the injury report really quick, the Buccaneers at the Falcons. The Bucs don't have any notable injuries on offense. The Falcons have Mac Hollins, who is questionable with an ankle injury, but I guess that's not that relevant fantasy-wise. The Rams, Tyler Higbee is doubtful this week with a neck injury. And the Ravens, probably much to Schiff's happiness, are pretty healthy this week.
Yeah.
I saw something about that on Twitter from a Ravens fan group as well, that they were kind of happy that it's finally trending in the right direction there, at least injury-wise. The Lions don't have anyone worth mentioning. The Bears, Equanimeous St. Brown will miss with a pectoral injury. The Colts at the Bengals, Jonathan Taylor is obviously out with that thumb injury. For the Bengals, Tyler Boyd is questionable. The Jaguars at the Browns. The Jaguars, Travis Etienne with his ribs, Dearness Johnson with a knee, and Trevor Lawrence with an ankle is questionable. Trevor Lawrence might play, which is unbelievable. He's,
interesting.
Yeah.
To say the least.
Yes. Mari Cooper with the concussion and also that chest injury is questionable for the Browns. We saw him play last week and was involved early, but also knocked out very early, so that's something to heavily monitor. For the Panthers, Hayden Hurst is still out. I genuinely hope Hayden Hurst gets better soon. That was crazy to hear about him having post-traumatic amnesia.
Yeah, amnesia.
That is, I've never heard of that before. That really sucks to see. All of their tight ends are banged up. Tommy Tremble with a hip, Steven Sullivan with his shoulder are both questionable. If all these guys miss, I do not know who will be playing tight end for the Panthers, but I don't think it will matter fantasy-wise. Kendre Miller is out for the Saints with that ankle injury still. Taysom Hill with a foot and a left hand injury. Rashid Shaheed with a thigh injury. Derek Carr with a concussion, rib, and right shoulder. Derek Carr was upgraded to active. Derek Carr will be playing. Just unbelievable. Don't know how he passed concussion protocol. Jawan Johnson with a quad injury is still questionable. Blake Grupe with a right groin injury is questionable. Chris Olave was listed as questionable with an illness, but they said he will play as well. Wow, their whole offense, other than Kamara. The Texans at the Jets, Dalton Schultz will miss with a hamstring injury. Noah Brown is still questionable with that knee injury. For the Jets, I don't know why they list Aaron Rodgers with an Achilles injury as out, obviously. Please take him off these lists. He will not play this season. Breece Hall is also questionable with an ankle injury. For the Vikings at the Raiders, Vikings have no one notable, and neither do the Raiders. The Raiders will be missing Colton Miller. That's only worth noting because that is by far their best blocker, passing and rushing. So that could be a hit to Devontae and Josh Jacobs because Aiden O'Connell does not move in the pocket. The Seahawks at the 49ers. Zach Charbonnet is questionable with a knee. Ken Walker with an oblique. Geno Smith with a groin. That's very tough. And the 49ers, Elijah Mitchell is doubtful with a knee injury, and Ray McLeod will miss with a ankle injury. And we
Okay.
are getting close to the end. The Bills at the Chiefs. Dawson Knox questionable with a wrist injury. Isaiah Pacheco's out,
Yes.
right? Isaiah Pacheco is missing, yeah, for the Chiefs with that shoulder injury.
Surprising he wasn't suspended, but
That's when they said they were holding him out, I assumed it was because they, like, the
that's what
suspension
I
was
thought.
imminent. So they were like, we're not going to be missing
Yeah.
it. But okay, it's the Chiefs. Why would he be suspended, right? Broncos at Chargers. Samaje Perine questionable with a knee injury. Josh Palmer will be out again with that knee injury. And to finish it off, the Eagles have no injuries to report, and the Cowboys have a random tackle I've never heard of, and that is it. So,
All right.
they are very healthy. And then obviously the Titans,
Okay.
Dolphins, Packers, Giants, we don't know yet because it's Monday. So,
Yes, indeed. So, moving right along and into the start of the Sunday morning games, I have the Rams going into Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The over-under is set at 40, and the Ravens are favored by 7. Before getting into this, I just want to note that it is supposed to be raining tomorrow in Baltimore, starting at 10 all the way through like 6 p.m. So, probably for the entirety of this game, we know that Puka Nacua, while he is set to play, is dealing with a legitimate AC joint sprain.
yeah.
The Rams just pass attack lately has not been the great, like as far at least for Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, it has not been as great as we wanted it to be. And this week the conditions are going to be awful, and they're going up against what happens to be the number 2 pass defense in the league right now.
Yeah.
Ravens are only giving up 171 pass yards per game, which is second in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, in awful conditions. Now, the guy that we are looking at on the side of the Rams is Kyron Williams. Ravens, are giving up 102.2 rush yards per game, which is 11th in the NFL, putting them near like the top third. However, I mean, I feel like a lot of this game is going to be limited to stuff around the line of scrimmage, whether that be them running the ball 20 plus times or Kyron Williams getting screen passes, so on and so forth. I just don't think there's going to be a whole lot down the field, given how good these two defenses are and the conditions of the game. I mean, the Rams are averaging 114.5 rush yards per game, which is 14th in the NFL.
Yeah.
So I think it should be a decent enough game for Kyron, regardless you're starting him. And for the Ravens side of the ball, they're averaging 27 points per game, which is 7th in the NFL. Only 207.5 pass yards per game, but 158.6 on the ground. Lamar, you can't necessarily bench him, but I think he should have a decent enough game just due to the rushing volume he'll get. And in this one, he might actually get in. It's going to be slippery, so he's hard enough to tackle. So he might break one for, 30, 40-yard touchdown. It's always possible.
Yeah.
And then the running backs, I think Gus Edwards is a good start. I think Keaton Mitchell's a good start. They're going to be running. At least they should be. We'll see what ends up happening, but looking at it, there's no way they don't end up running the ball like 40 times as a team total.
Yeah.
So just looking at that, Zay Flowers is tough to start in this one. They do like to run a lot of screens to him, so he is fast enough to end up breaking one, but just like I said, just starting any receivers in this game is hard due to the conditions. Definitely not starting Tyler Higbee or Isaiah Likely.
Yeah.
And then, that's pretty much, I think, honestly, the defenses.
The Ravens defense specifically.
The Ravens defense should be a really good start. I think the Rams defense might be a good start too, though, because, I mean, it's going to be, like I said, raining a whole lot. fumbles are
Almost imminent with. If it depends how hard it's raining. If it's downpouring, the fumbles will
it's
come.
like I don't want to jinx it, but it's always possible. Hopefully, for my sake personally, the Ravens can take care of the ball, but it just does present the option of the Rams defense if you are in need of one.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's not really too much else to add just due to that. I feel like it's going to be a lot of running. So I think whichever defense plays the best in this game will win.
Yeah. And I would agree with that. My first game is another interesting one. I somehow always get stuck with these division games. It at least feels like. It is the Buccaneers traveling to Atlanta and taking on the Falcons. In what should be an interesting game, the Falcons' defense is top third in the league pass-wise. They're 11th, giving up 208 yards, then right in the middle of the pack against the run, giving up 107 yards. But it even feels weird saying middle of the pack against the run because, like, for reference, the Bucs are 10th, so you could say top third, and they give up 99 yards, and then the Falcons are 15, so you're like right at the 50% mark, and it's like an 8-yard difference. But
yeah,
nonetheless, starters for the Bucs. Baker, we can't start him. We just can't. Especially as of late, like he had a little run like weeks like 6 through 8, 9 or something like that where he was putting up 19, 20 fantasy points a game, but that's kind of died off a bit. And it could be because the emergence of Rachaad White of just getting crazy volume actually on the ground now. He wasn't running it too often, but now it seems like they're giving it to him at least 15 times on the ground.
Yeah,
he's a must start. He's the number 5 RB in the league right now, full PPR. So he's an obvious start. Mike Evans is an obvious start. You just have to. And then that's really it. For my fantasy season being on the line, I don't know if I can throw in Chris Godwin confidently. I just can't. He's not even giving me double-digit weeks. I think he's now at 5 weeks in a row of single digits. That's
fair.
It's unbelievable to see. And the Falcons side of the ball is very easy, in my opinion. Obviously, Desmond Ridder is Desmond Ridder. That's it. Bijan is a smash start. Absolutely. Kyle Pitts and Jonnu Smith, again, with fantasy season on the line. I just cannot trust it. And then Drake London, I actually really like this week. The Bucs are 28th against the pass. They're actually a little banged up in the secondary as well. They give up 258 yards through the air. The only real threat in Atlanta is Drake London, through the air at least. And he's gotten single digits 4 times this season, but he's also means he's got double digits every other time. He's getting at least, on average for the season, like 7 targets a game. He's the only real threat there. I like Drake London this week. If you have the luxury to keep him on the bench, by all means. But I feel like a lot of us don't. So Drake London's a good start for me.
And that all you got for that one?
Yeah, it's not going to be an exciting one.
Well, I have another divisional matchup, one that we saw not too long ago, actually. The Lions going into Chicago to take on the Bears. The over-under is 43.5, and Chicago's favored by 3.5 points.
Chicago?
I meant Detroit.
Oh, okay. I was like, Chicago's favored? That would have been crazy.
No, absolutely not. I misspoke there. But the last time we saw these two teams meet up, the Bears were actually up by, I think, double digits in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
Did Bears things, managed to lose that game still. However, we did see pretty good game out of a few people in this one. Justin Fields being one of them. In the air was only 16 for 23, 169 yards with a touchdown. Not the greatest, but that's not why we love Justin Fields. It is the 18 carries for 104 yards. He also lost a fumble, but he ended up with 21.2 fantasy points. I think Justin Fields is a good start in this one. DJ Moore was the other one who had a great performance. Caught 7 of his 9 targets for 96 and a touchdown, so he finished with 22.6 points. Detroit's passing defense has not been very good, and I think DJ Moore should do his thing once again this week.
Yeah.
Jared Goff had a bit of a rough outing last time against Chicago, was picked off 3 times. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think he should have a much better day. I think he should have a much better game in this one.
Yeah.
He still ended the last one 23 for 35, 236 with 2 touchdowns. Those 3 interceptions definitely hurt because he only finished with 14.7 points. I do think Jared Goff is a pretty good start in this one. I like the field start a bit better because obviously he has that rushing volume, and if Jared Goff happens to have miscues, he doesn't have that to make up for it.
Yeah.
Amon-Ra on the last one caught 8 of his 11 targets for 77 and a touchdown. So he had 21.7. See, now this is where it's tough. Because we saw Jahmyr Gibbs in the last game catch 6 passes, 6 targets for 59 yards. He only ran the ball 8 times, but got 36 and a touchdown as well. So he finished with 21.5 points. We've seen them completely shift back to David Montgomery.
Yeah.
So it's kind of difficult. I think Jahmyr Gibbs should be a good flex option in this one because Chicago happens to be only giving up 79 rush yards per game, which is number 1 in the NFL. While I think David Montgomery will get the volume on the ground, I can see him going for anywhere near 20 carries. There will be times where, they're going to need to pass the ball, and Jahmyr Gibbs last time did a great job doing that. So I think he is a good flex in this one. But I think you're really limited to, on the Bears side of the ball, Justin Fields and DJ Moore.
Yeah.
Just given what we've seen recently, it's still hard for me to trust a Bears running back, especially when you have Fields running as much as he does. Especially at this point in the season, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Cole Kmet did not fare so well in their last meeting. He caught 3 of his 4 passes for 20 yards. So, if he's able to get involvement, he should be good. But again, this in a lot of leagues is the last week before playoffs. If there are better options, I would take them.
Yeah.
On to the Lions side of the ball, the guys for me that are must starts are Amon-Ra St. Brown, David Montgomery. I really think Jahmyr Gibbs is hard to bench this week, and Sam Laporta. Yeah. I think Jared Goff is a good start, but I'm not absolutely forcing him into my lineup. And, I mean, that's about it. I don't really like either of the defenses in this one. If you want to roll with one of the kickers, I don't hate that either. It should be a high-scoring affair.
Yeah. Aren't the Bears currently the worst team in the NFL? Oh, it's the Panthers. Forget what I'm saying. The Bears are 4-8. The Bears are 4-8, I believe. Yeah, Bears are 4-8. Yeah. Either way, just them having the number 1 rush defense.
They have the number 1 pick, but that's because of the Panthers.
That's what it is. That's
probably what you're thinking.
Terrible trade from the Panthers. Okay.
Yeah, it's an easy parallel to.
Yeah.
I was wondering first. I was like, oh, it's probably because you saw
they have the number 1 pick.
Graphics of the pick after the Patriots just won that game.
That's
the
what
Bears
it was.
Pretty much have solid. Yeah. Okay. Gosh. All right. We're all good. It all clicked.
Yeah. Well, my next game is honestly an interesting one. It's the Jaguars at the Browns. The Browns are the number 1 pass defense in the league, giving up 153 yards a game. And Trevor Lawrence, even if he does go, is banged up. He is going to be very banged up. The Browns are 14th against the rush, giving up 107 yards.
Be honest with me. If you're Doug Peterson, knowing the position you got, I get that they're trying to go for the number 1 seed. Are you really putting him out there against that Browns defense?
I don't care what team. I wouldn't put him out there no matter what. This is your franchise quarterback.
It just makes it that much worse.
Yeah.
That it's the Browns defense.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me, man.
No, I 100%
your franchise
agree.
Quarterback, you're going to throw out there to the Wolves. Like, there's no way he's going to be mobile. They said his ankle is sprained.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Trevor Lawrence practiced in a limited fashion Thursday and Friday. They haven't said if he will go or not, but
it should be CJ Beathard.
Yeah, it should.
That's just seriously like malpractice if Trevor Lawrence plays in this game.
But I agree. And ETN's practiced all week. He's still limited as questionable with those ribs, but it does seem like he's going to go. Dearness Johnson, he's been limited all week, so we'll see if he ends up going, but he's mainly a play if ETN does not go. But either way, this is the Browns defense. I like ETN starting, but Dearness Johnson, And then I get to the receivers. This is just really tough because if Trevor Lawrence isn't out there 100% or even 80%, like I know Christian Kirk is gone for the rest of the fantasy season at the least. Do we feel confident with Calvin Ridley? And a hobbled Trevor Lawrence? Would we feel more confident with a healthy CJ Beathard or a hobbled Trevor Lawrence? Or neither?
I'm just going to put it this way. When Trevor Lawrence got hurt in that game, it turned to pure chaos for the Jaguars offense. It looked like CJ Beathard was more comfortable running the ball than he was throwing it. Now, this was against the Cincinnati Bengals defense that has been bad. That is, granted, they have two good defensive ends. But as a whole, that defense has been bad. The Browns defense is solid across the board. There's not going to be anywhere for him to escape to. I can't see starting any Jaguars confidently but Evan Ingram and Travis Etienne. Just because they're going to get the quick dump off. They're going to get volume.
Yeah.
The only volume I could see Ridley getting is like wide receiver. I just don't think he'll have that much time to throw the ball. I genuinely don't.
Yeah, it's just a very scary week to gamble it all on like a Calvin Ridley when Trevor Lawrence is so banged up. Like I have Trevor Lawrence on my fantasy team and I just cannot start him. Like I pivoted to Jordan Love because you can't throw a hobbled guy out there for a lot of a season on the line and just pray. That just doesn't seem very smart to do. So I would agree with Schiff. I think if Beathard does end up playing in this one, I love the Browns defense. I love the Browns defense play. And then
I think I like the Browns defense regardless, just because.
Yeah, that's fair.
Trevor Lawrence is not known as a running quarterback, but if you've watched him play, he has escapability and he uses his athleticism to his advantage, much like Joe Burrow does when you watch him play. And as we saw with Joe Burrow, when you take that away, like Joe Burrow in the beginning part of this season where he was very limited in his movement due to his injury, I think that's the same kind of play we're going to see out of Trevor Lawrence if he does play.
It just didn't look great.
No, it was hard to watch, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. And to go to the Browns side of the ball, the Jaguars are terrible against the pass. They give up 262 yards a game, which is the third worst in the league. Their run defense is much better. They only give up 93 yards a game. The Browns, in a surprising, not so surprising move, waived PJ Walker brought Joe Flacco back to the active roster, and it now seems like Joe Flacco will start. And this could be a good week to do it because the Jaguars' pass defense is so bad. I think Joe Flacco actually helps some of our guys, not David Njoku, but Jerome Ford is a guy I just feel like you have to start because even when he's not getting the rushing upside, like he's gotten double digits the past 5 weeks. He's the lead back there. Jerome Ford has to get the start for me. Amari Cooper is questionable yet again. He cleared concussion protocol, but he's still dealing with that rib injury. And we saw him. If Amari Cooper can stay healthy this game, I think he's going to have a very good game. Joe Flacco, they had 3 catches for 34 yards and 5 targets and 32% of snaps last week.
Yeah.
Are you willing to risk him getting hurt with your season on the line? That's the question you need to ask yourself. If that risk is better than having to pick someone up that's on your waiver wire, if that's your only other option and you feel more confident, I'd rather roll the dice on Cooper getting me whatever and possibly getting hurt than picking someone up and knowing that their ceiling isn't nearly as high. That's a choice for you to make. But just know that is a great risk. Elijah Moore has been picking it up. I don't feel confident starting him with the season on the line, though. I know he's had 9 targets and then 12 targets these past 2 weeks, but his efficiency is terrible on these targets. He only caught 3 when he was targeted 9 times. He only caught 4 when he was targeted 12 times. It's just not a risk that I would be willing to take. David Njoku, I feel like you have to start him. You just have to. I know he didn't have a good week last week. He was targeted 6 times, only caught 2 of them. But with some of the injuries, like just saying, like if a Taysom Hill does not play, with a Trey McBride on bye, like Njoku probably falls within that top 10 projections. So
I agree.
And then we mentioned Hopkins. I like the kicker, and I like the Browns defense for sure in this one. But that is it. This is going to be an interesting game. I'm curious to see how this one plays out. If it's CJ Beathard, it might not be that interesting.
Yeah, I agree with that. So moving on to my next game, which should I don't really know for this one. It's the Texans at the Jets. Over-under is 33.5. Houston's favored by 3.5. Houston's offense is scoring 23.4 points per game, which is 10th in the league. 275.2 passing yards per game, which is also 2nd in the league. And 97.9 rush yards per game, which is 24th. The Jets' defense is giving up 20.9 points per game, which is 13th. 176.6 passing yards per game, which is 3rd in the league, and 136.1 rush yards per game, which is 28th. So, what the Jets are good at defending, the Texans are good at on offense. What the Texans aren't really that great at on offense, the Jets aren't really great at defending. Now, in the past game, we saw Dameon Pierce kind of take his role back from Devin Singletary. If he's going to get the volume, I think he should be a good start in this one.
Yeah.
I'd like to hope that's going to be the case. I don't know for sure, but I think rolling Dameon Pierce should be okay.
Yeah.
Nico Collins and CJ Stroud, regardless of how good the Jets defense happens to be, I think you have to start them.
Yeah,
I think just the possibility is always there. They're too good. And Nico Collins, especially with Tank Dell going down, his target volume is going to be through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he is a great start in this one. I don't know how much I'm taking a risk on anybody else.
Yeah,
honestly.
like a Brevin Jordan.
No, not the Jets defense is too good for that. I mean, I think Nico Collins is just very good. And without Tank Dell being there, they still have to cover John Mechie and so on and so forth. So,
Yeah, Noah Brown. Yeah.
yeah. Moving on to the Jets side of the ball, they are pathetic 30th, 31st, and 29th in all important offensive categories, respectively. And it's hard because Houston's defense happens to be giving up 245.2 pass yards per game. Now, you're starting Garrett Wilson just because regardless of who's the quarterback, he's going to get a bunch of targets, and you're praying that they're catchable targets.
Yeah.
So he can get it done. I think you're starting Breece Hall because he will get targets out of the backfield. He has not been running the ball very efficiently at all. And the Texans are only giving up 97 rush yards per game, which is 9th in the league. Yeah. So hopefully Breece gets his targets. If not, it's going to be rough for him. But those are the only two I'm really starting. Like I said, it's just too important of a week, in my opinion, to play around with Tyler Conklin or something like that. That's really all from me. I don't think Greg Zuerlein is really worth a start either.
No. And yeah, this last game for me should honestly go by pretty quick. It's the Panthers at the Saints. The Saints are pretty good against the pass. They give up 197 a game. They're pretty mediocre against the run, 24th in the league, giving up 125. But the Panthers don't have too many threats. Chuba Hubbard, I think, is being underprojected a little bit this week. He's been very solid as of late. I actually like the Chuba Hubbard start. And to be honest, he's the only start I like on the Panthers. I agree with Schiff. I was a little more hopeful that the Adam Thielen hype train could continue, but he was not wrong when he said they may look to involve Mingo a lot more because that is the future of this team. The past 2 weeks, Mingo has 16 targets. Adam Thielen has 9. And fantasy-wise for the season, it's not me being like, okay, I can input Mingo into my lineup. It's more so me saying Thielen has to come out. I don't trust Mingo enough to go in, but Thielen, you got to sit on the sideline this one. You got a lot of teams to this position. If you have Adam Thielen, thank him for his service and put him on the bench and put someone else in because it just has not looked good. The Saints, no matter what their stats say on defense, they play an ugly football and they will make this game gross. So I just don't trust anyone on the Panthers outside of Chuba because Chuba's just looked astronomically better than the guy they paid.
Yeah.
And the Saints side of the ball, they are banged up. Derek Carr somehow cleared concussion protocol after his second concussion in a month, so he will play. Say what you want about Derek Carr. He's a dog, though. He plays. No matter, he plays. If he can, he will play. He will be out there. Taysom Hill, there, again, as we mentioned, the injury report does look like an uphill battle, has not practiced all week with that foot and hand injury. Juwan Johnson's been limited Wednesday through Friday. He looks like he will go. My starts that I like for the Saints are obviously Alvin Kamara and Chris Olave. These are guys that you just have to throw out there. And then, if they say Taysom Hill's going to play, do you still throw him in the lineup after he didn't practice all week? It's so risky. It's one of those things where it could pay off and win you and get you into the playoffs. But is that more likely than him playing very minimal?
I don't know, man. It's difficult.
Yeah, that's a very tough one. I mean, I guess we can monitor it as it gets closer, but that's just a tough one. He hasn't practiced all week, so I may look other ways.
Yeah, we've seen that we've seen Tyler Lockett, for example. We've seen him do that 2-3 times already. It's tough. It is tough.
Yeah.
If he's going to play, I think you run him.
Yeah. Yeah. And if he does not play, I like Juwan Johnson as like right around that rank 10, but honestly, like I would rather start like a Cole Kmet over Juwan Johnson, season on the line. I don't know. I'd rather a guy that I know should be a vocal point of the offense that has been the whole season than a guy who's possibly only getting targets because of injury. But
That's very fair.
that's also a decision you'd have to make. And then the Saints defense, I obviously like a lot. Groupie is questionable again, but it does seem like he will play. I also like Groupie in this one. I think the Saints probably win this game like 27 or 24 to like 13, and they kick like 3 or 4 field goals. So we will have to see, but that was my last game if you want to close yours out.
And mine actually should be much more interesting than any Gardner Minshew versus Jake Browning battle in Week 14 should be. But here we are. The over-under in this one is 44. The Colts are favored by 1. It's in Cincinnati. So Indianapolis's offense is scoring 25 points per game, which is 8th in the league, 226.7 pass yards per game, which is 16th, and 115.8 on the ground, which is 12th. Cincinnati's offense scoring 20.5 points per game, which is 20th, 225.8 through the air, and 82.5 on the ground, which is dead last in the league. Both of these teams are fairly bad on defense. Indianapolis giving up 24.7 points per game, which is 27th, and Cincinnati giving up 22.8 points, which is 22nd. Colts give up 222 yards in the air, and the Bengals give up 254. So, yeah. Both of these teams are neck and neck when it comes to how bad they are in the run game. The Colts give up 133.2 yards per game, and the Bengals give up 133.9, 26th and 27th. So, Zach Moss, Joe Mixon, should be great starts. Absolutely great starts in this one. Jamar Chase, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, T. Higgins, all should be good starts. I'm not starting Gardner Minshew or Jake Browning by any means. However, if you're playing some kind of DFS or a 1 week fantasy type thing, I think they're good options for a budget.
Yeah.
But I'm not putting my fantasy season on the line for Gardner Minshew or Jake Browning, regardless of how good the matchup is.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, the star players should perform in this one. And I mean, hell, I think I'd even take the kickers.
Yeah.
The defenses are just bad. There's going to be a lot of scoring opportunity. And now that I said this, it is going to be a 13-10 game. Sorry, everyone.
Yeah.
But no, realistically, all the guys should boom. And don't start the defenses. That's about it. That's all we have for this morning episode. If you have any questions, comments, sleeper for one more day, actually, today, and it ends tomorrow. They are running their promotion in which first-time deposits are matched up to $500. It is pretty huge. I think if you've been waiting to hop on, now is definitely the time. Also, during this promotion and until the 26th, I believe, they are running a contest where every contest you enter of at least $5, you get a ticket. And you can get 4 tickets per day. The winner announced on December 26th receives $100,000 in prizes, so on through 10th place getting $1,000, and then 11th through 145,000th place gets $5 in pay-through credit. So if you're going to play anyways, now's the best time. It's at least rewarded in some fashion. So definitely a good time to hop on. 17 days left for the contest, and today and tomorrow left for that $500 deposit match.
Yep.
So remember, if you are going to play responsibly. We also have our group that you can join in if you do decide to play. But yeah, that'll be all for this one. We will see you guys in the afternoon and night games.
Yes, sir.